Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be talking to you about scuba valves. And I'm going to be talking about two different ones. Ones that I'm familiar with, ones that I use and that I've seen on the market for quite some time. Anyway, the first one is called the K valve, and it just has a simple on-off knob. And typically when you're setting up your gear, you always want your on-off knob to your right, whether you're standing behind it or it's behind you, because when you have your air on and you reach back, your air is always on the right, because you always have a right to have air. So setting up your gear, stand behind it, put your first stage on, Bessey, all that stuff on. When it's on your back, it's always on your right, right? Okay, so a couple different factors with this valve is, one, it has what's called a blowout disc, okay, right here. Sometimes that screw that's in here, or that nut that's in here, is exposed. Sometimes it's in a receded mechanism like this valve right here. Okay, what the blowout disc does, it prevents the tank from over pressurizing and blowing up when there's too much air in it, either from leaving it in your hot car on a summer day after a full fill, or some catastrophic failure, whatever that happens. So it's got a mechanism that allows it to bleed off. And the burst disc is typically rated, I don't know, anywhere from 5 to maybe 1,000 over the working pressure of the tank. Okay, so the working pressure of this is 3,000 psi, because it's an aluminum 3,000. Okay, so the burst disc is probably rated to 35, maybe 3,800 psi, maybe a little bit more, but usually within that range right there. Another key thing is, of course, where your first stage goes up against, which is the metal ring of your first stage. When you take the little dunce cap off, seats right up against this, and then you would thread down your yoke knob. Okay, it's always best to seat then thread, and when you thread it, it's always finger tight. You don't need what we call the military gorilla grip it. Okay, so K valve, first valve. Second valve I'll be talking to you about is the J valve. And one distinguishing factor of the J valve is it's got two knobs. Still the same standard on-off knob, which is smooth, typically like the K valve's on-off knob, it's smooth. And you always, again, put that to your right side when you're standing behind it, putting your gear on, putting your setup, or if it's on your back, it's always to your right, because we always have a right to have air, right? Valve, the O-ring is still facing forward, okay? This has a reserve mechanism, and then you can notice that this is a little bit different looking handle. It's got a little arm on it, okay? That's what distinguishes it between a regular on-off knob and a reserve handle. Also on the back is where you'll find the blowout plug here. So some are on the side, some are on the rear. Okay, again, it's rated to whatever the rating is, 3,500, you know, a little bit higher, whatever. Again, this is a aluminum 3,000, so the working pressure is 3,000 psi. Okay, one thing to note with this tank over the K valve is, with the K valve, you're always required to dive an SPG, a submersible pressure gauge, because you never know how much air is in your tank. Well, the beauty of this tank right here, this valve right here, is that it actually holds back 500 psi. So while I personally believe you should always dive with an SPG, you don't have to dive with an SPG, because when you take that last breath of air and you get that sucking empty feeling of no more air left in your tank, you simply just reach back, turn this knob from the off position, which is up, to the down position, which is down, and that's the on position, and that gives you about 500 psi, gives you 500 psi of air, pending that it was filled correctly. But it allows you then to make your sent to your buddy, hey, it's time to ascend, I have no more air left in my tank, we're going to come up and I've got 500 psi. Again, always dive with an SPG, you never go wrong that way. Something that I just discovered recently that I did not know, that people really did not know about this particular valve, was when I took it to a local dive shop, and the individual there said, that was going to VIP my tank and refill it, said, what kind of valve is this? And I said, well, you've never heard of this? And he goes, no. So I explained what I just explained to you all. And I said, well, one key thing that you have to remember to do when you're filling up a tank with a J valve is when you're filling it up, this has to be in the on position. That way all the air goes back in. Then you turn it back off when you're done filling it. Obviously, you turn your knob off too, right? So anyway, hope that answers your questions or maybe enlightens you on something that you never knew about. Feel free to comment. Please subscribe to my channel. Look for future upcoming videos. Thanks once again from Trinity Scuba Diving. Have a great day. Take care and God bless.